Well,
What's your name? What's your name?
Will. I'm Will. I'm one of the organisers. We're an art group, political art group called Cut Through, and we've organised this as a way of celebrating the possibility of a different UK without the monarchy, which we see as part of a system of oppression. We want to hear some poetry, some performances. There's going to be some live music, some disco later on, but there's quite a lot of political material that we're going to listen to. So yeah, it's like...
And there are signs of disenchantment amongst the British people about the monarchy.
There's no doubt. Yeah, I saw a survey for what it's worth, like 40% of younger people would prefer there to be no monarchy. That's something. And the fact that a couple of national papers have approached us, which we actually turned down, but is a sign, I think, of having to acknowledge. I don't think they did it with goodwill, but it's having to acknowledge something, yeah. Yeah.
So a majority of people in Scotland want to abolish the monarchy.
Could you save my paper? Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And I understand 27% of the British people overall.
That's a high percentage. I mean,
a
that's
lot more than they used to be. And then 18 to 24-year-olds is a majority, well, about a majority.
that's enough to elect a government under this system. Yeah, you know, and so we also look to the colonial history where the monarchy was used in order to promise like belonging to Britain, but it never happened. We know the various episodes. The latest is the Windrush. So we want to call attention to the colonial function of the monarchy, but I think above all that it serves as cover for the ruling class who can pretend, well, okay, but the monarch is above any divisions. I mean, tell me another one.
So they wheel them out to create a false consensus in the country, or to attempt to.
Monarchy also has some non-constitutional, I would say, privileges. They can veto laws, certain laws about property particularly. They're also part of the Privy Council, which is a non-elected sovereign body. So, I mean, the Constitution, you know, look at Chile, they're writing a new one. It needs deep need of changing it. Yeah.
And also all the armed forces and MPs swear allegiance not to the people of Britain, but to the monarch.
Yeah.
Which
so
is that's an anachronistic feudal concept.
it's a backwards turn. So French Revolution, which is the main political basis of the present time in Europe, they got rid of the monarchy and created a republic. That was a long time ago, isn't it? Yeah, I would say, just to say, you know, dump the monarchy, trash the monarchy, I think some of that has real thinking behind it. I think some of it is like, well, okay, but it's not enough, is it? And presumably Charles, when he becomes king, will make some concessions, you know, and it will become more, let's say, democratic, you know.
We executed a king in Britain, but then we did a kind of deal with a successor.
Yeah, I mean the main thrust of the killing of Charles I came from middle class people, and the workers and peasants, they were the ranters and the levellers and the diggers. The levellers were partly middle class and partly more radical. So I mean, you know, the middle class tolerated a republic for a while and then straight back to monarchy. Yeah.
The people who come here from other stay where you are. People who come here from other countries can't believe we've still got this sort of relic of the past in such a powerful position.
It's not just an anomaly. I think it's a piece of corruption, and worse than that, a piece of of destruction inside British politics. You know, it's a poisonous bit of British politics.
This poem
Needs getting rid of.
There was a book
it was written
by a
after
guy called Edgar Wilson in the 80s.
the Grenfell massacre.
called Method of
It's called
Monarchy.
Refusal
And he
Pool
went through
Depth
everything
Charge.
that all
It
British
just tests the
people
sound
believed
here.
about the monarchy.
Pretty low here.
They basically debunked all of it.
It's really like a
that
mono
they
signal
kind of
from this
work hard
speaker.
and that they're good for trade. He worked out
not
in
great.
terms of trade. Everywhere they went, trade fell off.
I'm not, yeah, I was going to say I'm
fine.
not surprised, but I think
up
the
to
main
10
thing is that one can get into thinking they're a waste of
Being
money,
sampled at a grid.
and that's one of the slogans going around
Sorry,
now.
let me start that
It's
over.
not
Refusal
really the
pool
point.
depth
The point
charge.
is they are a
Being
tool
sampled from a grid at
of-
where
of
wind
the old-
cannot blow
of the
to
old
mix
ruling class.
cash superfluity with bone ash.
Talking about
Panacea and
Republic.
Hiss clothing Isaac in reservoir
That's Republic's
non-binding
main thing, isn't
HCN, which is
What
hydrogen
do you say?
cyanide.
Republic's main thing is
Pray.
saying you can get this many nurses.
Scrambled
for one monarch.
radiation licks,
So it's
cleansing
an economic
info
thing.
off crossbone
Yeah.
shading,
Whereas it's a bigger
Mosul,
issue.
Raqqa,
It's
fat
a-
smoke screen, no
it's a
other.
political issue.
Dinic
I
derivatives
think
get shot
it's going to be
into green
part of something
family
bigger.
board.
The,
Felt
the
white tips,
removal
they're
of the
fast
monarchy
red
will
under
be sort of part of a
tubes
larger
here, slow
movement
boiling at
which
where
will
point
seek
wedge above
to
room
change
temp,
this
none
constitution,
closer.
amongst
Fair
other
in
things.
face,
I mean,
class
just
warfare,
looking that
yes,
far ahead.
two alternative exists.
When that starts to
This is
happen,
some extracts from
we're
the
beyond
cuts.
existing political parties. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Strangled by the river,
Are you
vocal
surprised that
exercise,
there's
credit
so
advance.
few
Our
anti-monarchy
spirit
events
cannot be
in Britain,
crushed.
in-
It is
in-
too
in-
far
in-
fucking
in
fact.
London?
It expresses itself in
quite
song
surprised.
with the security cable fastened.
There's only
Shaheed
two
for
others
yellow
in
pipe, head of blowtorch
in England
screwed to
anyway, maybe in
canister.
Scotland there are
Distortion
others.
on a semitone bellow,
I'm
pitch drags
surprised.
love to
I think
incest,
there's
what abuses could not
partly a
relocate
question
into
of
the dining area of the barbecue
So many
express.
political defeats of the left.
To rise
since
up from the pit to
maybe the
self-pardon,
times of
to
Blair.
speak
That-
after clutching an
it's
unlimited
very hard to
silence,
have confidence,
article the guilt of those
in
without the yellow
actually doing
pipe upon
something.
the
So,
neck front
in a
and
way,
the
what we're
chin
saying
of
is,
the chest,
come here, have a good
which
time,
piping,
make
not
some
yet
different
cut open,
noise,
gives
different
credence to
words,
self-pardon,
you know,
shibboleth
and-
for how
and
else
get the
to know
feeling
who
that
deserves it, and
we
redeem
could have
thus
something different.
thyself,
It's possible.
and with only self
You know,
associate, yellow,
it
through
exists,
and
that
rich
possibility.
now, then soft and hard to tell, saying nothing of the
Great.
molten
Alan
suspicion
would love to
rot
talk to you
beneath
as well.
its armor,
Hmm?
metal
Alan,
shattering from an
the guy
inaudible
who's
whistle.
con-
So, what's going on today? What's this event about?
It's an anti-jubilee, anti-monarchy, it's like poetry, music, things like that. Like just sort of informal get-together, I think. Yeah.
It's surprising to me that there aren't more anti-monarchy events or anti-jubilee events.
Yeah, no, quite. I mean, maybe people don't want to publicise them beyond their private groups because they don't want trouble or anything like that. But I don't know. Yeah, there hasn't been. This is the only one I saw going on in my circle.
It's almost like this fake consensus that's being produced by the media.
Yeah.
So it's like to stand out and actually say what you think about monarchy. Maybe it's seen as security risk.
Yeah. Although I don't know.
Dangerous for your job.
Yeah, dangerous for your job, precisely. Although I kind of feel like the pro-monarchy ties have changed amongst sort of Middle England a little bit. Like, if I think about like my family like 5 or 10 years ago would have been really like, don't say a bad word about the Queen. Like, obviously the monarchy is fine, but now they just think of them as irrelevant and they're not particularly progressive or anything like that. And I feel like there's a bit of a movement away, but obviously modest.
Around 27% of the British people as a whole would prefer a republic, would prefer an elected head of state,
Yeah.
and majority in Scotland. I'm not sure about Wales, but so things have changed, things are moving, and apparently 18 to 24-year-olds, it's about a majority in favour of getting rid of them.
Great.
And I mean, what is your basic argument why we should get rid of them?
Oh well, I mean, it's just it's just such a representation of all that has been damaging about Britain in the world and about the British Empire. Like it's it's just a portrait of that, like up in your faces in the papers like every single day, and it's completely extraordinary that we would allow something that represents that to continue to represent us. That's just really odd. I don't understand why it isn't a hotter point, why there isn't a stronger Republican movement. I guess people don't care enough, like maybe I don't care enough, I don't put any effort into to that. So I guess they're irrelevant enough that you ignore the problem. But yeah.
They're kind of the pinnacle of the class system in Britain. So they're the head of the aristocracy. So they, if you accept them, you're almost accepting inequality generally.
Yeah. Although, like, there's a lot of apathy, I think, that tries not to think about that. So I don't think accepting them necessarily means you accept all of the sort of bad politics they stand for, like, but because they're sort of cultural. Just because apathy towards them is just so possible because they are so irrelevant on a day-to-day basis. They don't. Yeah.
Have you heard about this song that's going up the charts? About
No.
Andrew?
No.
It's called Andrew is a sweaty nonce. it's at number 2.
Oh no, I'm so out of touch.
It's
I didn't
up
know.
the charts. It was 12 yesterday, and I believe today it's gone to number 2.
Oh well, they kept that quiet. Like yeah.
They're going to obviously try and block it from becoming number 1.
Ah.
It's quite funny. It's worth checking out.
Ah, I will.
It's a bit rude, but I think British people have these myths about the monarchy. You know, that they work hard and that they're good for trade and that they're good for tourism. But if you actually examine it all, it's not. It's pretty flimsy.
Yeah.
That in fact, there's a guy wrote a book and he researched all these myths and found that everywhere they go, trade falls off because they're seen as sort of anachronistic.
Yeah.
Sort of just odd.
Yeah.
And,
Oh well.
they don't work hard. The Queen has about 300 days holiday a year, follows the sun around the world. So,
Yeah. I mean, like, they're patrons of charities, but like, even like, I don't know, I don't think we should have to rely on charity in order to run a country, and that they just represent like exceptionalism and the state sort of like failing to actually support people in an adequate way so that we have an adequate standard of living. Like super weird. Charity in itself is like an odd thing, and that seems to be like kind of all they do. Like, yeah.
and they're very greedy. Apparently the Queen has spent a lot of effort into avoiding tax, and as she's gone around the world getting all these sort of jewels and gifts, she then keeps it all.
Yeah.
She doesn't give it to the state. She regards it as her property.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's really a weird institution. Super odd. Doesn't make any logical sense in 2022 to have a country run in that way, like have a country represented in that way.
maybe there is a connection between the British Empire and the size of the empire and the sort of adulation of the monarchy among some sections of British people. You know, in that you had the working class here obviously benefited to some degree from the empire.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
maybe
maybe.
they've been incorporated more into the establishment. I mean, look at Ramsay MacDonald, you know, who's the first Labour leader, ended up sort of crawling to the aristocracy and
Yeah.
forming a national government with the Tories.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, like it's the fact that we have an aristocracy of any description owning any kind of property beyond what your average person owns is completely odd and wrong. Like, yeah, I mean, I can't add any more than that. Like,
people come from other countries and they look at this and they think it's insane.
yeah, it is objectively insane. Yeah. It's weird, super weird. Yeah. Yeah.
Got anything else to add?
I don't know, but it's very nice to meet you.
Right,
Yeah.
Pick up a microphone.
Oh yeah, sorry, of course.
Cheers. Thanks.
Disgage my head, liquid atrocity, running cognitions, container into parallel, cannibal gravy, pending issue of a finalized menu. Two teeth sublet a property inside of my chest, one bruised and burgled, the other at fault primarily. All of it the inverse of the neophyte at the reduplicated buffet galactique that is and is not a secret. Now you know there is a door. Your horoscope, Anglo-Tyrannia, is drawn out by a frozen consumer rights. Scratch that. That day is approaching. It is nearer than one can imagine. Its countersign, cut here, is already tattooed on the exterior of your carotid artery. Your horoscope, Anglo-Tyrannia, is drawn out by a frozen consumer rights aardvark that squawks through a recording that plays through holes in a little metal plate fastened in the wall next to it, the flesh wanting to bristle but entirely without hair, the representative taxidermed anyway, where the forecast is the image of its author on display in an abused garden full of sun, even when none other is, and contiguous with police harassing people separating mortar from a heap of discarded stones by the road. Anglo-Tyrannia. Just to get themselves down the stairs, your subjects now need immersive walking directions. That's fucking shameful. You turn the food source off and on mock-ironically, inventing new sorts of people who appear desperate to be enslaved. It is evident in the sphere of glitching carceral flame that whips around almost anybody when they go off to work, even without a coat or a bag or a sandwich, their precise carbon footprint balanced out by a contestant in a terms and conditions death maze game show. Its fact, regardless of outcome, is itself a form of credit offset. Anglo-Tyrannia. You admit reflexively that you repackaged shit sprayed with false coconut shavings, leaking grease sourced from an entirely different obscenity behind the grating where poo-poo squeezes through and through, just as all the pee-pees do too. Who on the earth have you not tried to coerce into sharing your sweet tooth for unscaled national obliteration lotteries? It is Kafka Eskimos who have one word for snow, which is fire, while your subjects play Russian roulette with expired food before an AI interlocutor who gets you access to emergency mental health care if you wait several years while still not yet an adult. The epoch elliptic is very acute. Anglo-Tyrannia. You separate the human knob from life itself like two halves of a fried yellow plantain served with beef tongue and rice, also salad. You mix oxidized rebar splinters into concrete poured into the human snatch, and you lay pebble dash over waterproof sealant along the leaf of the human body crease. You have continued to do so since your inception, whereat you slipped into something more comfortably analogous to a masked rapist cop get-up shaped like a Goldilocks planet. in which you appeared in one of those TV court shows playing a judge, hamming it up in a mode of cultural specificity that was cultivated in a factory suspended up in the clouds for an eternity, invented by the authentic white man, but the original one without any spoilers or melody. It is in this way, specifically, that you are incapable of accounting for your actions. The thought hurts from flying between repeated barriers.